Hey guys, welcome back to the Firsties podcast. I'm your host Mila.
And I'm your host Mela.
If you're new here, if you're a Firstie,
We're basically a safe space for first gens who dare to dream.
we like to laugh, kiki, argue.
Basically, two baddies with a mic.
Thank you so much for tuning in.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Now
And
let's get into this episode. Hey guys, so we're going to jump right into this episode. So it is my birthday week. So I thought I put together some things I learned throughout the years as I'm almost exiting this decade. Cannot believe it. I'm actually really excited. I feel like some people get a little bit anxious, especially women who are coming out of this decade. But I'm learning that as you get older, you learn more about yourself. You just are figuring some things out as you get older. So it's kind of like exciting. My early 20s were a roller coaster. That's the nicest way to kind of put it. So I put this list together. Now take this with a grain of salt. This is just some things that I definitely put this list together and was thinking about my 14-year-old self or my 13-year-old self, or sometimes even my 8-year-old self. What advice would have helped? Because there are some things that were very just like a little bit confusing, I'd say. That's like the nice way to put it. So I put a list together. These are all very miscellaneous, but we're going to jump right in. But of course, thank you so much for everyone, the person who's listening to this, watching this. I really do appreciate it. You guys are loving some of our clips on Instagram, which is so interesting. So thank you so much for all the love and the support. So let's jump right in. All right. So some things that I've learned in this decade, almost exiting this decade. Sleep is the most important thing for your body. It is truly, rest is productive. The like sleep when you're dead thing that's a cute little Tumblr post, but that's not realistic. Really, I've learned that really focusing, I know I sound like a grandma, but sleep, like from a medical standpoint, is literally the most important thing you could do. Get your sleep, girlies and guys out there. A lot of amazing things happen when you get your full night's rest. And also, same way you have like a skincare regimen, you should also have a sleep or bedtime regimen, I should say. So if that means like at 8 o'clock, you stop with the screens and you just wind down, you do your skincare, then maybe grab some tea or whatever you need to do to allow your body to know that you're preparing your body for sleep, to go to bed. Very important. When I was younger, I would just go to sleep when I was physically exhausted, like a midnight, 2 a.m. if I'm watching something, and the next day I'm just not as productive. So get your sleep. I promise you it'll help you in the long run. All right, this next one. Your 20s aren't about having things together. It's about figuring out what together means for you. I really want to spend some time on this one because in my younger years, I was just obsessed with like looking perfect or being the perfect daughter or friend or sister or whatever the case is, without actually really taking in a kind of inventory of myself and how I felt and what I thought about myself, honestly. So I think we've kind of have it reversed where we think the 20s, you're supposed to figure it out, when like, this might sound corny, but look at all those shows following those 20s where it's Friends, Girlfriends, Seinfeld, Sex and the City. These are all women and people who are figuring their life out in their 20s, and they make countless mistakes and you try to figure it out. You don't have to have it all together, but it's also figuring out what together means for you. And that could mean a family, that could mean a business, that could mean moving to a different country or city, right? And just figuring that out. So like just put a little less pressure on yourself. I really am telling my younger self that for sure. This next one, no need to explain your decisions to people who do not pay your bills. And that's a side pan for my reaction camera over here. Really, it is amazing what happens when you do not necessarily care about opinions anymore, when those people don't pay your bills, right? Like, you're not about to stress me out on my phone that I pay for. That's insane. So just take inventory of that, because I think sometimes we allow all this outside noise, and some of it might be coming from a great place, like certain family members, but for the most part, you know what you got to do. You know what you got to do to get ahead or to follow your dreams or what's best for you. And ultimately, you're going to do what you want to do anyways, even if you take all this inside noise. So just focus on yourself and do not put a lot of weight on other people's opinions. Promise you. I was drowning when I was younger on that. This next one, it's okay for people who are younger than you to inspire you. It also is okay to let them know that. Okay. You get inspiration from everywhere, especially on social media. There are the most younger people on that social media achieving all these amazing, crazy things. And you can have your opinion on those, but there are people that are my younger cousins who inspire me. They're ways to voice their opinion. The generation is kind of changing now. So it's okay if they inspire you. I feel like there's some stigma or shame or embarrassment if someone younger than you is inspiring you. And it's like, no, voice your opinion and extend that kind message to them. You never know what that can do for someone. Any moment can be celebrated. I recently, me and a couple of my girlfriends surprised one of our friends in their group chat who just announced that she's cancer-free. It's been a tough year for her. That's something too, and she wasn't really someone who's like, make it about her or anything like that, but she just kind of announced it to the group chat and that was it. That's major news, right? So we threw her a surprise kind of brunch party and it meant the world to her. And it's simply because we should celebrate these amazing things. If your girlfriend got a new hairstyle and it looks cute and she's happy, go celebrate that. I think nowadays we are more likely looking at the news and what can be negative, and like life is short. So we should honestly make any moment something that we could celebrate, whatever that is. You get into school, you get a new car, you know, achieve something new in your school or work, whatever the case is, celebrate it. I think some of the worst people are the ones who judge you for your excitement on something. And I think nowadays it's like you're too cool to be excited about something. It's okay to get excited. That means you're living, you're a human being. So celebrate any moment, like any moment. Protect your peace at all costs. Not everything deserves a reaction or a conversation sometimes, truly. I cannot express this enough. It's sometimes hard to practice, especially in first gens, because it's not really in our cultures and stuff like boundaries. What are those in immigrant family, right? We're still learning those. Literally don't even know what those are. So protect your peace, whatever that means. And that doesn't necessarily mean there has to be a conversation, because that also can create a lot of toxicity or negativity or even just some stress on yourself. So if that just means you have to remove yourself and not make it a scene or a thing, then do that. Do whatever makes sense for you. Protect your peace at all costs. Please and thank you. This next one was a major, major lesson for me. You build trust by asking for help. I'm someone who it took me a while to kind of figure that one out. I don't really like to ask for help. It could mean, I don't know, it's you put yourself in a vulnerable situation. You could have rejection, or to me, my brain told me that I was demonstrating that I don't know what I'm doing or that I'm not as smart enough as someone. And that's not the case at all. That's just what my brain was telling me. And so I've learned that by allowing my brother or my mom or my sister or my coworker or whoever to step in when I actually need help, you're able to build trust with that someone, because then they're able to show up for you. But if you don't extend that conversation or ask for help, how are you able to get there? And vice versa. Like when someone asks you for help on something, they're genuinely asking you, right? Which is a beautiful thing. And you're able to build trust that way. I thought that was really interesting. Green flags are as important as red flags. I know on this podcast, we've talked quite a bit on red flags and icks and all that stuff. And for a lot of it's for entertainment purposes, so take it with a grain of salt. But I feel like a lot of the time, especially on social media, we really focus on the red flags. And like, let's focus on the green flags as well. Like, let's give props to people who are doing things right. And when things are going positively, right? I think we always focus on like the red flags, and that's what gets the views and the likes and stuff. But focus on both. Or pay attention to both, excuse me. I truly believe that the 20s are the new teen years and the 30s are the new 20s. Now, I'm not in that decade yet. I'm not in my 30s yet, right? I'm still holding on to the 20s, 29. But I feel like when I was younger, 25 seemed like grown. You knew what you were doing. Lies. I don't know what show I was watching. I don't know who lied to me. That is not true at all. I really feel like 30s, I've heard this from many women, and 40s, it's really when you're in your bag. So it only gets better, which I think is just so interesting. All right. Time is the only currency that we do not know the balance of ever. So spend it wisely. That is truly anytime you're able to get together with your family or your loved ones or your friends, just know that's a very special thing. Life is short. I don't know why for all of us. This is something that we have to learn time and time again when we get some rough news or we see something on the news as well. Someone lost their life or something tragic has happened. So spend it wisely, whether it's like with loved ones or with yourself or whatever makes you fulfilled. I never want to say happy because that's just a state of being, but fulfillment is really the goal, peace and fulfillment. Your relationship with your siblings is your lifeline. Now, if you are lucky enough to have siblings, I was just on the phone with a friend of mine and she was sharing how her kids are not as close as they once were. They don't fight or anything like that. But I told him, I think when they get even older and life starts to life, they'll probably come back to each other probably. And that's exactly what happened with my siblings. I've always dreamed of the relationship that we have because I come from a very family oriented type of environment. I have a lot of cousins, a lot of some siblings. And I just love that, like, we're best friends. And, like, I like to talk to my brother about stuff and my sister and be a part of their lives. And they include me in literally everything. And our communication is there. And we're able to kind of work through some childhood trauma together so we don't repeat it in the next generation of our family. So I would arguably say, and I know it's been said about this on social media, that your siblings are probably the most important relationship one of the most relationship that you have. As your partners come later in life, your parents leave you too soon, and so you're left with your siblings. So I cherish them. I love you, Josie and Basie. This next one, tretinoin saved my life. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, I work in the aesthetic industry, and one of the clients I work with just a dermatologist, recommended tretinoin. It's basically like a retinol. It's a product that you'll use on your face every night. I quite literally have not gotten a breakout, and I could not tell you years. And if it's a breakout, it's like one little blemish. Truly changed my life. I am a low maintenance girly. I do high maintenance things to be low maintenance, if that makes sense. So if you're able to get it prescribed, go to your derm, do your research and stuff and go to a medical professional, but life-changing, absolutely life-changing. This next one is kind of similar to what I mentioned a couple of moments ago, but sometimes closure is literally just moving on. Conversation's not needed. I don't need that much stress. I don't need to predict on how you're going to react or to change my mind, but sometimes I think closure is a myth. I think it's just what we tell ourselves to try to continue that relationship. Sometimes the conversation's not needed. We don't need the drama. It's just about moving on. This next one, worrying achieves absolutely nothing. I was the queen of worrying, truly. Trying to predict the outcome, staying up at night, being anxious, just a girl in my 20s. I'm just a girl, right? Let's be real. I'm just a girl. It achieves absolutely nothing. Like, it's going to work out the way it works out. You can do what you want, how you react to it, but like, it's going to work out how it's going to work out. So why worry and waste your time? Which then I want to say your future has, and how it turns out is none of your business. I know that sounds funny because it's like, it's your future, right? But you can only control what you can control. The rest is not up to you. To me, I believe it's up to God and how it works out for you. And, so it really is none of your business. I always say this. I've learned this even with the work that I'm in, that when I am asked for my team lead or my boss to do something, I don't really have any pushback or anything, or even curious as to why she's asking me to do it. I simply do it. I think because the trust is there as well. I know not everyone has that type of relationship at work, but I don't need to know the outcome or why we're doing something. I just simply do my work and go home. I think that could be extended to other parts of our life as well. We are so obsessed with the future and how something turns out, and only making certain decisions if we know 100% of what the probability of it turning out will be. And sometimes I think that can be less exciting. And I was something who was obsessed with the future. And it's like, hey, if I'm meeting my small wins, my small goals, it will work out, and it'll work out how it's supposed to. And I probably don't even know what I actually need or want. My the Lord knows that. So the future is none of my business. All right. This next one, treat the most important people in your life like the most important people in your life. I think as we get older, sometimes, even when we're younger too, we just honestly almost like mistreat the most important people in our life or our loved ones because we just think, oh, they're going to understand, right? For example, I probably will never miss a call. And if I do, it's for a good reason, but I probably will never miss a call from my boss, right? Because that's my lifeline. She clears my checks, just to be frank, right? However, maybe a family member calls and I'm like, because I'm so close with them, I'm like, I'll reach out later, and I forget to, or I extend that a little bit longer. And it's like, well, no, they are the most important people to me, and I need to like show that, whether it's showing up, picking up a FaceTime, a call. So I think sometimes we're just like, oh, they'll understand, and then it's like 5 years later and you haven't gotten dinner with that family member or that loved one, whoever that is. Speaking of dinner, food is fuel for your body. I was just talking to my brother about this. I am an emotional eater. Like when I'm feeling great, I want to go try the new restaurant in town, in the city. I want to kiki with my girls and eat some food. And then also when I'm not feeling too great, I also want to eat my feelings, essentially. And I'm learning through my medical professional that that is not particularly healthy. There is a population of people, which I was like shocked. My nurse practitioner was basically like, so Mila, you know that there's people out there who use food as fuel. They literally use this as nourishment, so they basically don't perish. I'm like, oh. She's like, with you get excited for food and to eat as like entertainment almost, or like a sport. And you really should just be focusing on putting good nutrients in your body and focusing on it helping you throughout the day rather than entertainment or when you're bored or anything like that. I'm like, oh, that checks out. Now, keep in mind, I think a lot of people in immigrant families can relate, or just in the culture that like every time there was a party at my house, there was always drinks and food, like a lot of food and drinks, right? That's just how we kind of come together as a community. But that's not necessarily good when it comes to just like your day-to-day eating, because your body needs fuel. And so I've had an interesting relationship with food. So again, food is fuel for your body. This next one, being kind will take you further than being right. I've definitely learned, even in some disagreements or arguments in family members, I've learned this through just being a front row seat to some of my family members or friend relationships, that each party wants to be so right that they forget to be loving and kind to that other person. And at the end of the day, like, who knows who's right? And what does that even mean? Right? So it's better to be kind than to be right. You don't even recall that argument later, but the person, they remember how you made them feel, which is probably not the best. All right, this next one. I almost cried writing this one. One day you'll look back and you will see that you were always capable. Always is in capital letters here. It took me a while to figure out. I think I mentioned this in an earlier episode, but for so long I was like reading everything, asking all these questions to people that I trust and I like admire. And one of my mentors actually told me, and I said this before, but I think it's a good one, so I'm going to repeat it. But she mentioned you were so desperate to seek all these things. And a lot of it has to do with like growth too, like internally. It wasn't like materialistic things, but just like confidence and being decisive and all these things. And she mentioned all you have to allow yourself to do is allow yourself to bloom, because all the things you're looking for is actually inside of you. The power is actually inside of you. I just had to kind of like figure that out and unlock it. And that was kind of like a wild lesson. I was like, oh, I had it all along. This next one, the dream is free. The hustle is sold separately. So you got to put in the work. I think I was just talking to a friend and we were talking about how there finally is some artists now who genuinely are, like back in the day in the music industry, the artists that were coming up, they could do it all. Act, sing, dance on stage, put on an amazing show for 2 hours. It was a whole entertainment, right? And then there's a couple, maybe from social media, there's some artists who, and I respect the hustle, but they weren't necessarily like an entertainer. They were an artist, but not necessarily an entertainer. And we're finally coming back to that with some pop stars and some people coming on up. And that reflects like putting in the work. Like if you want to be great, you have to put in the work. I cannot believe I'm going to quote Tom Brady. Like who knew I was going to quote Tom Brady on this podcast? But he said something along the lines of like the only difference between him and others is that he just puts in the work. Like it's just being consistent and showing up consistently. That's literally the only difference. A fraction of it is talent, but for the most part, it's just showing up and putting in the work. This next one is for my skincare girlies. You do not need a 10-step skincare routine. All you need is a few, I'm talking about like 2 or 3, maybe 4 medical grade products, and you're golden. Less is more. I'm telling you this as a girly who would walk up and down the aisles of Sephora just looking for the product that's going to cure all of my childhood trauma, and finally someone will love me because I'll have clear skin. Do you guys see how my younger years? Yeah. Like what was I thinking there? I've learned in the industry that you don't need much. Truly a gentle cleanser, something to hydrate your skin, whether it's like a hyaluronic acid serum, moisturizer, and sunscreen. And then maybe if you need, you could also do like an exfoliant, and that's like twice a week maybe. Less is more. I have truly, in the morning, I use 4 products. At night, I use 4 products. That is it. And a lot of them are the same products night and day. So like it is not much that you need. And I think I'm at where I'm happy with my skin. This next one, choose the person who is willing, not perfect. No one's perfect, right? There's only one that I believe is perfect. Who's willing, truly. What that means is they want to put in the work. And I learned throughout the years that I think because I'm a rom-com girly and I grew up in the rom-com era, that you're going to meet the guy, and at meeting, they're going to know how to love you or know how to, I don't want to say deal with you, but just know how to interact with you. And that's what dating's for, is to figure out your love language, figure out how to love you, how to communicate, all that stuff. So as long as he's willing or she's willing, then you're golden. They're not going to be perfect. No one's going to be perfect. Living in reality is best, even if that means breaking your childhood fantasies. This one was like an actual, genuine, painful one. I grew up just thinking I would end up, there were just certain fantasies I had, whether it was a conversation I had in my family or things I saw in media or movies. And that's not how it turns out. It actually could turn out better. It actually can turn out better. So I do want to inspire you guys. But I realized that living in reality, there's freedom in that rather than living in this fantasy world, because in order to get to reality, you have to go through some painful stuff. You have to like dig out some childhood stuff and have uncomfortable conversation, but like I'm good for it. And I'd rather live in reality, even if it means the childhood fantasies are not going to happen. This next one, boundaries are for you, not the other person. This is how you build trust with yourself. So for example, if I state the boundary is, I don't even have to state it, but just I tell myself, okay, if this person, says another comment that bothers me or triggers me, I am going to get up from the party and I'm going to leave. And you share that, right? And then if that were to happen, the boundary is for you because it's setting up trust for yourself. So in that way, you already have your bags packed or whatever the case is. You grabbed your keys, you're called your Uber, whatever. You're almost ready to go. So if that were to happen, you've made your decision and you're leaving. I think what happens is we set boundaries, hoping that other person's going to change. And it's not even romantic. It could be family members, it could be friends, whatever. And then when they cross that boundary and you don't, continue what you said, your boundary, you've lost trust in yourself, and so has the other person. And so boundaries are for you, right? So it's for you to set for yourself and to follow through, not the other person. This next one, just because it's trendy or expensive does not mean it's a good product. Truly. I'm in my label reading era. Maybe this is because I'm older now, which just turning 9, like Mila, relax. And also if it's trendy as well. Just because it's expensive or trendy does not mean it's a good product. I just recently I travel a lot for work, so I got a new book bag, and it has all these compartments and stuff, and I used to carry a North Face backpack, which I also love, but it's not necessarily appropriate for the type of work that I do as far as like compartments that I need. Like I love a pocket, I love a zipper, I love it all, and I love to organize it. So I got this new bag that's not necessarily a known brand or anything like that, but it's very functional and it's realistic for the type of, travel that I do. And this next one, soft life for girlies out there, but also guys too. Soft life is the goal. Protective love is the goal. I do not want to be strong in my relationship. You can keep that strength, truly. I want to be in more my feminine era and my feminine energy. And if I am with someone and someone else says, wow, Mila's very strong in regards to my relationship, please tell me to exit that relationship. I don't want that strength in my relationship. I know I'm a strong person, I'm capable, but I don't want that strength. I want to be able to be fragile and delicate in my relationship. I think outside world is different, but in a relationship, don't want to be strong. I want to be nice and soft, and live in my soft girl era. So that's just a few things that I've learned throughout the years over the things I've discovered. Comment down below if you agree with any of these, or if you disagree. I'd love to hear your feedback. You guys seem to love to give us feedback on our Instagram. But I'm grateful for another year. God is good. I'm excited for Firsties this next year as well. Can't wait to see how this last year of this decade closes out. I am super, super excited, honestly, to get grown and sexy, if I'm honest. The early 20s were an emotional roller coaster. Very, very confusing for me. I don't know about you guys, but very confusing for me. But I'm excited for this next year. As always, thank you so much for listening, watching, viewing, subscribing, and we will see you in our next episode. Bye, guys.